A lot of people notice that Ragatha's mental state just keeps getting worse, and yeah, she's really on the edge of falling into straight-up depression, but barely anyone actually figured out the real reason why. If you think it's just because of Pomni or Jax, then you're way off. And today, I'm gonna prove that to you. First off, let's remember what Ragatha was like back in the early episodes. She was helpful, always keeping it positive, but even then there was something off about her that most folks just didn't catch. Slowly but surely, she started changing from one of the most upbeat characters to this insecure girl who's clearly spiraling and standing on the edge of becoming an abstracted monster. And like I said, the real reason behind all this ain't as obvious as it seems. Of course, episode 5 gave us the most info about her, and even though Goose said it was going to be equally split between Jax and Ragatha, turns out her first leak was way more accurate, because we honestly learned way more about Raggy, while we still don't know much about Jax. So here's the thing: to start untangling this whole mess, we gotta go back to one of the most talked about scenes in episode 5.
Maybe she just doesn't want to hang out with someone who's mean to her all the time.
She likes when I'm mean to her, though.
I didn't think you cared about what other people like.
No, yeah, you're right. I don't.
Do you have any actual friends?
Not anymore. Oh, wait, no. I'm sorry. I wasn't talking about...
Pay close attention to how Ragatha acts the moment she walks in. At first, she's totally confident, like she's about to shut Jax down again for acting out like she always does. But then just a few seconds later, we see her completely fall apart. She can't even put a sentence together and ends up running away from the problem she literally walked into herself. What really threw me off were the tears in her eyes, and that's where it gets weird. Is the topic of Ribbit really that painful for Jax that even Raggy picked up on it so hard that just a judgmental look from him hit her like a truck? That already tells us Jax means a hell of a lot more to Ragatha than it seemed. Then we hit the intermission, which doesn't really matter all that much except for that one scene, but after that we jump to the bar, and that's where we hear a story that's not only real honest, but also kinda emotional.
I was born into a fairly wealthy family. We had a large property with horses and chickens, and my mother, my mother was a lot. I worked in real estate for a bit until I ended up here. I'm sure she doesn't miss me. I certainly don't miss the yelling, and braiding, and guilt tripping.
I'm showing you these scenes in full so you don't miss a single detail, but right now, let's get to the real point. During her little monologue, Raggy opens up about a lot of personal stuff that finally starts connecting the dots for the main question of this whole video. We find out Ragatha used to live on a farm and had a super strict mom who clearly raised her in this super conservative household, where Raggy was expected to be the perfect obedient daughter doing whatever her mom said without question. And of course, that messed her up real good and shaped the doll we see now. And trust me, I'll prove all of it with actual examples. We also found out Ragatha worked at a real estate agency, which honestly threw me off a bit, cause based on what we know, she grew up on this big fancy farm with a rich family. So it didn't really make sense why she'd end up in real estate at all. But that's where we start seeing the roots of Ragatha's mental struggles. She was clearly trying hard to prove to her mom that she could handle life on her own. And remember what she said? That her mom doesn't care where she is or what's happening to her. So most likely Raggy got into real estate hoping it'd finally get her mom's attention. And that thread keeps popping up through the whole series, and trust me, I'll show you how it all connects a bit later. We also found out in episode 5 that Jax is scared of corn, because it reminds him of the farm, and I already talked about the theory that Jax and Ragatha are siblings. And yeah, even with all the solid points I made, a lot of people still don't buy it. Everyone's got their own opinion, and I totally respect that, so I won't push this theory as the only explanation for their connection, but I do think it's super clear these two were definitely connected in the real world somehow. Maybe Jax worked on that very same farm Ragatha lived on or something like that. Either way, they for sure knew each other before the digital circus, and that right there is one of the keys to understanding what's really going on with her. And here's where it gets good, because to fully get what's happening in that scene, we gotta rewind just a bit. We're keeping in mind that Jax and Ragatha knew each other before the digital circus, and it's totally possible that back in those early days, maybe even weeks or months, Jax was the closest person she had in there, and that's when Ribbit shows up. The same Ribbit who now chills somewhere deep in the basement, but back then he's the one who basically came between Jax and Raggy, and here's where it really starts heating up. Realizing she's got no one left, Ragatha starts looking for real friends, and boom, that's when her upbringing and all that pressure from her super strict mom kicks in. She was raised to always be obedient and cheerful, and she tried to use that same vibe to connect with the other circus folks. But something clearly didn't click, because everyone could tell there was something off about her, and Gangle straight up says it in episode 4.
Like, in regards to your issues. I'm sure Ragatha would like to help you out.
Oh, Ragatha. I love her, but after a while it gets kinda hard to tell how genuine she's actually being.
Actually, Jax said that himself.
Why are you always pretending everything's always fine? Like, if you tell someone they're loved and appreciated every day, it kind of loses all meaning. It just feels like she's trying to take advantage of you, you know?
It's that fake sincerity and forced positivity that kept Ragatha from making any real friends, and that became her downfall, because on one hand, she's used to doing exactly that to fit in, but on the other, she knows it pushes people away, and yet she can't do anything about it. And right at that moment, her mental state starts sliding down, because her biggest problem isn't even the lack of real friends, but the lack of attention, which, like we remember, she desperately needed ever since her time working in the real estate agency. Several scenes from earlier episodes prove this.
'Cause she'd rather be with an NPC than with us or something. I wish someone would flirt with me.
But the clearest scene proving my point is the final scene in Mildenhall Manor, where Pomni appreciated her care.
Thanks for always being concerned about me. I feel like, through everything, I haven't really been appreciative enough about that.
Oh, thank you, Pomni. I just want to make sure you're doing all right. You know, we care about you.
You can see how happy she is that someone finally noticed her and praised her behavior. And here, we smoothly move to another important character in Ragatha's life, Pomni. As soon as our favorite jester landed in the digital circus, Raggy immediately started encouraging her, trying to get into her circle of trust and become good friends. That's why she was so obsessively following Pomni everywhere.
Oh, and don't worry about the whole abandoning me for the exit thing. It's perfectly understandable what you were going through at the time, and there's no hard feelings. You're all good. Well, sounds fun. What do you think, Pomni? Pomni! Are you okay? Well, what happened?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Or like here when she tried with all her might to protect her, to earn her respect, trust, and sincerity, and let's be honest, at some point she even succeeded. But then we saw those scenes with Gangle and Jax that made Pomni look at Raggy a little differently. And if at first Pomni even doubted the truth of those words, that bar scene changed a lot.
Hey, Pomni! Remember when Kaufmo smashed me against the walls and I got all jumbled up? All things considered, that was pretty funny, right?
No, not really.
Oh, yeah, no. Sorry, that was probably pretty traumatic for you.
That turned out to be a fatal mistake, because basically Ragatha tried to get Pomni's attention again with a not-so-great joke, which finally convinced Pomni that Raggy isn't really the sincere person you want to share everything with, but a mentally fragile person whose only goal is to do whatever it takes to get noticed. And Ragatha herself totally gets that. Right now, she's literally losing her last hope for a genuine friendship. And if you remember how she used to treat Pomni, always supporting her and stuff, now a lot has changed.
Okay, let's, calm down a bit.
What? You're the one who said it's fine to be a jerk sometimes! Ugh. I'm sorry, Pomni. That wasn't very cool of me.
It's fine.
It's clear that at this moment, both Pomni and Ragatha herself realize that this is her true side, and everything before was just a lie. So Ragatha lost her last chance, and now we finally get to that scene where everyone leaves in groups while Raggy stands alone, and it's obvious, nobody cares about her. She's once again completely alone, and there's nothing left to do about it. So we get that the real reason behind Ragatha's mental decline that will probably lead to depression is a mix of factors that started back in her childhood. The main cause is complete indifference, not only from Pomni and Jax, but from everyone else too. The only thing Raggy can do to avoid repeating Kaufmo's fate is to become her true self, but sadly she probably doesn't know how to do that. And as usual, I'm waiting for your thoughts in the comments. See you soon.